Uh-oh. Well, I did find something amiss. Nothing major, but could have had a much bigger mishap. I was carrying the collet indexer here back over to put it on the shelf with the USA, and I was because I was carrying them both. I was carrying them by the handle, and I had this handle in my hand, and what ended up happening was this disc right here separated because I didn't have a collet in there to sandwich this all together, and for another major reason, and that allowed the ball bearings in here to start falling out. And when they first started falling out, I actually thought I was listening to rain outside, because we've been getting a lot of rain. Believe it or not, it's kind of funny, but that's what I thought it was initially. And what it was no, it was all the ball bearings hitting the shop floor. So unfortunately, fortunately, I was able to find them all and put them all back in. But I was like, well, wait a minute, why the heck did that come apart? I don't remember having a problem with that on the USA. The USA I completely disassembled and cleaned and reassembled. So when I took this apart to put it back together, put all the ball bearings back in, I cleaned this up and I noticed, well, there's a hole right there. And I said, I wonder if that's a set screw. And sure enough, there's where the set screw is supposed to engage. So, and that's what keeps this captive on here, so that this can't do this, spread apart like it did in my case and make all the ball bearings go flying. So what I want to do, well, the other question is, what does that actually do? This is cocked on this part right here. Maybe there is something broken on this. Okay, so we've got this fiber washer, then the ball bearings. Alright, so when I left off before I went up and had supper, I was looking at putting this back together, and then I noticed that this collar right here is kind of cocked on this in kind of a weird way. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely disassemble this whole section right here, clean it really well and put new grease in it. I got a sneaking suspicion that, judging from what I'm looking at in this thing, that there's some swarf maybe got in between this collar and this part here. And I really want this thing to work smoothly and be right. If I'm going to sell it to somebody, I want them to get a good usable shop fixture, and not a parts thing, or not something they're going to have to mess with before they can use it. Let's see if I can just tap the high side of this collar and it might pop free. There we go. That's it. That's better. That actually looks like it's not supposed to come off of here. Let's see, to take this off, it looks like what I would have to do is take actually this piece off. I'm not going to do that. That actually doesn't look like there's anything stuck in there after all. That's just such a tight, precise fit that if it cocks the slightest bit, it jams up. But I am going to clean that grease out of there. Alright, so I finished cleaning everything up. I made sure the ring is down straight, and I put some fresh clean grease down in the groove there, and I loaded all the ball bearings in, and I made sure that I didn't put too much grease down inside there, because overfilling the ball bearings with grease is just as bad as not enough grease, or it can be. So now the next thing is this felt washer goes on top. Fiber washer, I guess is what I meant to say more correctly. It's looking good. Now this piece goes down on top here, but before I put this piece on, it's going to be a lot easier for me to size that grub screws Allen with it in my hand. It's a pretty small one, real small one. Might not even have one here on the bench small enough for that. Nope, I do. And the screw's there and it's intact, so I'm not sure exactly what happened here. I don't know if that just loosened up over time. Whoever had this was using it. So I'm going to kind of eyeball this and get this kind of in the ballpark. Tricky part about this is I'm trying to make sure I get the that set screw to go into that slot. Feels like it's in. Oh, it's feeling like it's working correctly. As long as I'm at it, I'm going to run a paper towel through this bore. I see a little bit of debris in there. And this assembly, getting this assembly back in here is pretty much a piece of cake. Okay, we'll put a thin film of grease on this surface right here. Feels good and clean. Alright. The handle has these two pins that have these two little rollers that sit on it. And you don't want to lose those when you're taking this apart. And the same problem I had when I took my Uesa apart, which is that I forgot which way this handle goes, because the handle can actually be installed one way or the other. At least I think on the Uesa it could go in one of two ways. And I want to make sure the handle's actually got an angle to it. I think the angle goes towards the back. Yep. That's what's nice about having another one. Even though it's a different brand, it's such a close copy. And then the screws, that's the other issue. The screws are actually two screws, but they're not identical. One is longer than the other, and this is the one that needs to go in the bottom here because this is much thicker at the bottom. These screws are actually easier to put in with it. It's easier to just line it up looking down the bore from the top and get one started. That'll keep your alignment keen. And then you can flip it over and do the other one. That's such a tight fit for that handle. I'll be darned. Either this handle goes on differently than the one on my Uesa, or I put the handle on the Uesa on backwards. This handle, when it was made at the factory, there's actually a slant to these cut sides right here that corresponds with the slant, the way this casting was cut or milled. So this handle will not go in this way. It just can't do it, but it'll fit this way. And I could have sworn when I was looking at it, it just made sense to me to have it the other way. And that is back together. I just need a 5C collet to test it. So I put them all away. Oh, I just realized the whole time I was working on it, I had tightened the shot earlier and forgot to widen it out. So a lot of this reassembly you didn't get to see. So I'll just end up probably editing all that out. But I had trouble getting this handle on, only to discover that the handle can only go on one way on this model. Whereas on the Uesa, I think you could physically install it either way, but there was only one way that ended up being the right way, I think. But the funny thing is that this handle is a little bit different. So I don't know whether or not I've got the handle on the Uesa on backwards, or if it's just a little bit of a different design. But anyways, I'm going to test it out now so that I can know for sure it's working correctly. So what I got is I got a nice hardened collet. I just got a piece of stock that fits the collet loosely. And what I'm going to do is turn this little knob on the back here. Let's see if we can get this collet in. There we go. Cinch it up a little bit, try it out, test it. Alright, so that's a little too loose. Give it a few more clicks. You can hear it clicking. Now, ideally, I'd put a Tommy bar in here right now to click it better, but now, I guess so I can make sure that I'm actually got a good working unit here. Let's see. I don't want to use one of my better punches. That should do it. Loose, a little click, and it's pretty tight. I could even cinch that up some more if I wanted to. Click, and out she goes. All right. There we go. Should be a little harder to click than it was, so now that should be, there we go. That's plenty tight. And then of course the operation, we pull the lever here, and we pull up, click, release, click, click. That is a working collet fixture. But I am going to take my hard-inch collet out. I'm not going to donate that with this thing. Sweet.